Happy Sunday evening. I'm coming on because I have not talked about MS Awareness Month at all yet. And it's, more than halfway through the month of March. March is MS Awareness Month. Also, by the way, it is also colon cancer or colorectal cancer awareness month, just so you know. Anyway, MS Awareness Month is in March every single year. MS stands for multiple sclerosis. If you don't know what that is, basically MS is an autoimmune disease. It is not contagious. They don't know why people get it. They don't know what causes it, and there is no cure. MS is a progressive, often debilitating disease. And the most frustrating part about it is that it is invisible to most people. Unless you're unable to ambulate and you're using an assistive device, most people don't understand the things that people deal with who have MS. So I'm just going to take you through, my usual symptoms and things that I deal with every single day as a result of MS. I think the thing that I'm most resentful about is my lack of sleep. Sleeping is very difficult. It doesn't come easily. It doesn't matter what position I am or where I am. I often roam around the house trying to find a different spot to lay. In the world of MS, we call this painsomnia. It's that you just hurt everywhere and it's hard to find a comfortable position. So I might fall asleep for a few minutes and then be awake, and then I fall asleep again and then I'm awake. I don't get very much REM sleep, according to the sleep tracker that I wear on my wrist. And so it leads to also fatigue. The fatigue itself happens whether I sleep or not. If it's just another one of those symptoms. So I've tried every single sleep med out there, like to help induce sleep. All of them, Lunesta and melatonin, and what's the one that makes you do weird things in your sleep? I can't remember the name right now. I tried every single one, and none of them did anything except for make me feel groggy the next day because I didn't sleep. And then to counteract that, because I have this fatigue that is crippling, I need to take Adderall in the morning to get myself moving. So those are two of the most annoying symptoms, but those are not the only ones, and there's nothing worse that you could do to somebody with MS than say, oh, but you look so good, or oh, I wouldn't even know you're sick. Or even worse, make assumptions about somebody who happens to be parking in a handicapped parking stall with a handicap tag and accuse them of it not being legitimate. And believe me, this has happened to me. Other symptoms include neuropathy. I haven't felt my limbs in probably 20 years. By the way, this coming in June, I will be diagnosed 21 years, living with it since the early 1990s. And for the time in between when I started having these weird things happen to me and my diagnosis, every doctor said I was crazy. There was nothing wrong with me. And I knew there was something wrong with me. Things were just happening and no doctor could figure it out because nobody took the time to run the proper tests, to ask the right questions. And it wasn't until I had this onset of symptoms that led to my diagnosis that were really, really prominent that I finally got my diagnosis. So I have neuropathy, which means I can't really feel my limbs. I don't know where they are in space if I'm not looking at them. So walking in a crowd, very difficult for me, very anxiety producing. I'm sound sensitive. I have a startle reflex. I have constant tingling and numbness all throughout my body. I have tremors, not just in my hands, but in my eyes that I take medication for to keep them from tremoring. And even that sometimes still doesn't work. I have vertigo. Some days are better than worse. I do have a medication that I take on an as-need basis for those really dizzy days when I feel like I am spinning out of control. I prefer not to take it because it doesn't make me feel very well. But it's there. It's an option. I do take a daily allergy pill, which is supposed to help with the dizziness, but it doesn't always. So I still have to deal with that. I can't walk in a straight line. I have bladder issues, which I prefer not to talk too much in detail about, but let's just say that they're not fun, and they do disrupt my life. All of this to say that somebody can look perfectly normal, but still be sick. And the worst thing that you can do is make somebody who has an invisible illness have to defend their illness. Accuse them of not doing things just because they don't want to. If I get invited somewhere, I hesitate to RSVP yes because I'm worried. Like, what if I can't go? So, I often tell people that I'm a game day decision, but that can't always be the case. What we require is for people to be understanding that, like, even though you can't see what's happening, it's happening. There's a war brewing under the surface of my skin every single day. My body is fighting. It's exhausting. And then to have to defend it is even more exhausting. Nobody should be made to feel like they should defend their illness and that they are ill. Like I've been accused of selectively choosing things to do. Well, yeah, I have to. I have to do that because otherwise I wouldn't be able to function. Like, these are things that I have to deal with on a daily basis. I can't tie shoes anymore. I haven't tied my shoes in 20 years, 21 years almost. So I'm grateful that there's a whole world of slip-on shoes that actually aren't ugly, because like 20 something years ago, that wasn't the case. I remember when Skechers first came up with these like slide-in sneakers, I was so excited. I was like, finally, I can wear a sneaker without having to ask my husband to tie my shoes. So there's a whole world. It's like when you see an iceberg, right? There's only the tip of the iceberg that sticks out of the water. But underneath, there's a ginormous, like, bottom of it that you don't see. That's just like MS. What you see on the surface isn't the same as what's happening underneath. And I would encourage you, if you have anybody that you love in your life who has MS or any invisible illness, it could be any. It could be lupus, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, any of these invisible illnesses. The best thing that you can do to tell them or show them that you love them is to learn about their illness. Because there are people who have been in my life for forever that have never taken the time to really learn what it is that I deal with every single day. If people do that for other people, like when somebody tells me that they have a condition, the first thing I do is I try to learn a little bit so I can understand and be empathetic. And I think I'm naturally empathetic because of what I deal with on a daily basis. But people who are healthy and able-bodied don't think about these things. And, and just be grateful that you're able-bodied, and don't be condescending towards those who may look able-bodied but aren't. It's a real problem that I have not seen get any better through the course of the last 20-something years. And it's very frustrating for those of us who suffer. So this is the month of MS awareness. I've been posting on my stories every day, just sort of little snippets of things. Like today, I posted about the fact that 10 years ago, I walked around the house and then I looked down and I realized I only had one slipper on, and I didn't know where the other one went. That's just MS. I don't feel it. I didn't know that I had only one slipper on. I didn't know where it went. I had to walk around the house to try to find my slipper. It's funny. I can laugh about it, but it's also sad. It's sad, and like these are real true stories. I trip over nothing. I had to sell a beautiful house that my husband and I built together with so much love because it had stairs. And I promised him that I would sell it if anything happened to him as quickly as I could, and I did. And I found a place that does not have stairs because I know that stairs are not my friend. I can't even walk on a flat surface most of the time. A couple years ago, I dislocated a finger when I fell over nothing, the ground. You know, it just happens. It happens. So if anybody's watching live and you have any questions, Ambien, yes, that's the one. Thank you. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat here, or you can message me, and maybe I'll even put it in my stories, because people just don't understand what happens with this condition. And it's not a death sentence. I'm not saying that. It's not a death sentence. What it is, it's a life sentence. It's a life sentence. I will be living with MS for the rest of my life. And hopefully I won't progress any further. So far, the treatment that I've been on for about 7 years-ish, 6 maybe, has maintained me at stable. Stable is what we pray for at this point because, progression is what we're trying to avoid. And all the treatments that are out there, and there have been such great strides, and I'm so grateful because when I first was diagnosed, there were 4 treatments, all self-injections. Not that I mind self-injecting. I can do it like anything now. It doesn't matter. I mean, I was deathly afraid of needles when I was first diagnosed. And I remember meeting somebody who didn't want to go on treatment because she was afraid of needles. And, if you look at the data and the research, it shows that these treatments, they don't do anything for you in the here and now. You just have to trust that they're slowing the progression of your illness. And I do believe that they are, because here I am 21 years later, and while I do have difficulties with everyday activities, I can stand on my head, I can do handstands. Those are things when I'm totally focused. The things that you take for granted are like, when I'm cooking, I have to be very careful because I often burn myself because I don't feel that my hand is on a hot thing, or slicing my finger open because I don't feel it. Things that happen in daily life take a lot of extra thought and a lot of extra preparation for somebody like me. And I have to be extra careful. So while MS is not a death sentence, I will be living with it forever. I called it the silent partner in my marriage, and it was. And Bruce dealt with it like a champ, and I was so grateful for him being my care partner because he didn't waver. He was at my side, steady Eddie, all the way, no matter what. Through the times when I was not ambulating, through very scary relapses, he was always, always, always at my side. Now, here I am alone. I never thought that I would be alone and chronically ill with a progressive, possibly debilitating illness. But I have a squad, a small but mighty squad. And, I just hope that the next generation might see a cure. That's where I look now. Because for me, I've been living with it for so long, and I'm older already. I'm about to be 52 next month. And in my lifetime, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm being realistic. In my lifetime, I don't foresee a cure for MS. But perhaps in the next generation there could be. But if we don't raise awareness so people know about this and that the funds are dedicated for research, then we're never going to find that cure. And MS, by the way, is not, MS itself is not genetic. The predisposition for an autoimmune disorder is. So take that as however you want to. That's exactly what any textbook or doctor will tell you. And autoimmune diseases in my family run. So there's been lupus, there's been vasculitis, and me with MS. And generally, if you have one, you might have another. Like in addition to MS, I have rosacea, which is also considered an autoimmune disease. So, and also, just because you have one illness, it doesn't preclude you from getting others. So neglecting preventative care is not the road to go down, because as we've seen with my life, I also had cancer. So, and I still don't believe that the two aren't connected, that because my immune system is what it is, and because I've been suppressing my immune system for all these years, because that's what the treatments do. They suppress the immune system because in MS you have an overactive immune system, and instead of attacking germs and bacteria and stuff like that that enters into your body, it attacks your brain and your central nervous system. So what the brain and the central nervous system means is that, imagine that there are these nerves that come out from your brain and your optic nerve in your eye, and they go down to the different parts of your body. Imagine that's a wire, and the wire has a nip in it, or it's like you know how it has the plastic coating. Imagine that's like pulled off, and the connection can't go through. So the brain stops communicating with certain parts of the body. So that is basically like the very easiest way to understand MS. It is not fun. Nobody chooses to have it. Nobody would, I would give up, I would go back to work in a second if I could do it. I would give up my handicap parking if I could do it. I would give everything up, but I can't. This was the hand that I have been given. And I always say that we should play the hand that we're given like it's the one that we wanted. I'm lucky that I have been very proactive with everything. I stay active. I keep moving. And this goes for everybody, not just people with MS, but just keep moving your body. It doesn't matter how. If you don't move it, then you lose the option. I've seen many friends with MS who stop moving and now they cannot. And that is the last thing I want for myself. I want to have as normal a future as I can. Well, nothing's normal in my life anymore without my partner, but I want to have a normal life, and I don't want people accusing me of pretending that I'm ill or making things up. MS does weird things. It does really weird things. And whether you believe it or not, it exists and it's true. So do me a favor, and if there's someone that you love that has MS or any other invisible illness, just do a little research. Do just one Google search and just read something. Try to learn just a little bit. Let them know. That shows true love right there. You learn a little something, and then you don't say things that make that person feel badly that they're ill. They didn't choose it. None of us chose it. We live with it because we have to. And everybody who does is a fucking warrior. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you live with any of these debilitating chronic illnesses that are invisible, you're a fucking warrior, because you're not just battling your body, but you're battling society's doubt.